Before we start the video today, just to let everyone know, I will be at Expona 2023. Hey, say hi if you see me. Jay recently teamed up with CSS and brought a speaker to market. They will be demoing it at Expona in room 472. Now, although Jay already has multiple amplifiers to demo his speaker, he still wanted me to bring the Galleon TS120 tube integrated amp because he heard the final version in Texas and he was really impressed with the sound. So that's the reason why I'm going. As such, he will be rotating amps during the show, and the TS120 will be one of the amps he will be using. Now, what I'd like you all to do right now is put in the comment section 1 or 2 songs you would recommend me to use at the show. You know, a lot of music at the show, they're like really boring. Now, before you come to Expona, try these 2 songs in your system. The Peppery Man and Make Us Stronger by Ghost Rider. That way you will have a frame of reference of what your speaker can do versus what Jay's speaker can do. Now, the Montreal Audio Fest 2023. Now, this is an event I look forward to every year. Now, as I always say, you cannot judge a system at an audio show because many factors come into play. For example, the room and the setup. However, this year, I will try to list out at least one negative so the video does not feel like a giant infomercial. So I used the 2 tracks, the Peppery Man and Make Us Stronger, to test as many rooms as possible. The point of playing the Peppery Man was to see how good the positioning of everyone is on the soundstage. Well, and also how good the female vocal sounded. Make Us Stronger, that song, is purely for fun. And when you push the volume hard with that song, that is where you can really tell the difference between speakers. You see, I don't go to an audio show for critical listening. One luxury I have at an audio show is to play at concert level volume. Let me tell you a story, okay? Saturday night after the show ended, I dropped by the Apertura room. Now, in this room, they had the flagship Apertura Enigma Mk2, the HIFI H30A power amp, the HIFI P30A preamp, the Innuous Zen F3 media server. I mean, look at the size of the HIFI power amp. If you run it in mono, it's 1,100 watt. Now, they ran it in stereo for the show, so maybe 200-300 watts. So what can a $50,000 system do? Now, I bet you if you play Diana Crow, a lot of you will say, meh, my $500 system at home sounds better. Why do I need $50,000 system? Let's put it this way. I put the song Make Us Stronger, I pushed the volume to insane level, and my jaw dropped. The bass was tight, tight, tight. The control of the woofer was spectacular. I've listened to over 100 amps in my life, from $100 to 100,000, and I can tell you, man, the control of the HIFI blew me away. I pushed the speaker so hard, Richard, the distributor, was like, it's okay guys, if you blow the speaker, I have a backup. He was sweating bullets and he was laughing because he was probably so shocked at what these speakers can do when pushed hard. The truth is, I've pushed enough speakers with this song that I can tell, yeah, these Apertura can handle it no problem. Zero distortion, no sign of it being strained. We were over 100 dB for sure. And anyways, Richard, what he did the next day, he played that song to his other friends and they had the same reaction. Oh my gosh, this is insane. At the Montreal Audio Show, I think this was my top 3 when it came to this song. What is my impression of the system? Yeah, it's really resolving, and I would say the overall character is on the neutral side. Now, one of the top speakers for this Make Us Stronger song was the Dali Kore. This is the flagship speaker from Dali. It was driven by NAD M23 streamer and an M33 power amp. A bit of a mismatch in my opinion, in the sense like they're driving an $80,000 USD speaker with only $9,000 of electronics. I did ask some subscribers at the show what they thought of the speakers. Yeah, I would agree with them that the center image is not solid. But I always say, right, it's okay to ignore all that at an audio show. I mean, look at the setup. You have a wall on one side and the other side is open to infinity. I just enjoy it for what it is. One thing I enjoy at an audio show is, you know, I get to listen to speakers in ultra big rooms. I can fit a swimming pool in this room, man. It gives a different experience which you'll never get at home. So these core speakers have a large sense of scale, imposing, detail, and decent speed. They probably can get even faster speed if they had a higher end amp. They had strong bass, and when you play the song Make It Stronger, oh my gosh, it was able to fill that, what, 2,000, 3,000 square feet room, no problem? Okay, maybe not that big. Not only that, the energy can be felt outside the room. Now, you'll never get this kind of experience at your home unless you live in a castle. That's why I play these kind of fun tracks at Audio Show. Sure, they're not audiophile tracks, but it's fun. Now, when I dropped by PS Audio Room, it was a bit special because, I watched so much of Paul's video that everything in the room is familiar. I guess I don't even need to highlight all the gear used in this room because most of you should know PS Audio gear by now. Equally special is the staff actually recognized me and allowed me to choose any song I wanted. So this year they had the FR20 speaker. It looks like a baby FR30. I was expecting the FR20 to have the exact same sound as the FR30 with less bass, but I quickly realized it is different than what I remember when compared to the FR30. Now at the beginning of the Peppery Man song, you hear a few people standing at different places on the soundstage. Try at your home. Now most of the time, the first two people talking, they're standing in front of the speakers. One left, one right. And most of the system I listen to, it's usually in front of the speaker. Now once in a while, especially in a high-end system, the two people are detached from the speaker. In extreme rare cases, the first two people are standing slightly behind the speaker, each speaker. So what I listen for is how much space apart everyone is from each other at the opening sequence of that song. And what I like about the FR20, the placement of the people was pretty good. Good scale and presence, strong and deep bass. Now what I noticed different when compared to the FR30 is it is a way more laid back speaker and the top end is a bit rolled off. I can blast the music at 120 dB for an hour. I might go deaf, but I will not get listening fatigue. Now this got me thinking, the presentation they're going for with these FR20 is very specific because it would appeal more towards that crowd of people that prefer polite speakers. Now for those who put no listening fatigue on top of their list, maybe this is the speaker for you. Now having said all that, it's just one song at an audio show, so please take my observations with a pound of salt. Next, the audio note room. Now they had two rooms. In one room, the gear cost more than my house, and in the other room, more than my car. And let me just list the products and prices on the screen since they sent it to me. So what is unique in the audio notes room? The famous cellist Vincent Bélanger will perform every hour at the hour. Now he would play alongside the audio note system, I guess to show how well the system can integrate with real life performance. And we can conclude that the system is pretty close to the real thing. If cello is mostly what you listen to, and you're about to put 100,000 on the system, I tell you, stop, man. Just get a $10,000 system and spend the rest of the money hiring Vincent to come to perform at your home whenever you want to listen to cello. Nothing at the show tickled my heart as the real thing. The second Vincent start playing, you can put all the system at the audio show in a garage sale. Nothing like the real thing, man. Now I was chatting with my audio buddies and we all agree. Audio note is pleasant to listen to, and perhaps because I got to hear a real cello in the room, I have something to compare to, and the tonality of the audio note system was very impressive. For me, there's a certain warmth to it that I appreciate. The downside, I don't know, but it feels like audio note spend like 99.9% of their budget on getting the sound right, like on just put everything on the sound, and like 1% on the looks. If you look at a speaker and you tell me that's a $10,000 speaker, and if I didn't get a chance to listen to it, I might say you're crazy. Okay, sure, after you listen to it, okay, here's my 10,000. Next, the Graham LS8/1, another $10,000 speaker. I remember it just as I walked into the room, even from the outside, I told myself, oh, this sounds pretty good. A bit on the lively side. They drove it with the integrated amp called BOAZU from this unknown company called lejonklou. Now, why this speaker caught my attention? Well, partially it's because it reminded me of the Roger LS59 I reviewed a while ago. There was a similarity where it is very good for an acoustic instrument. I think part of the idea with these kind of speakers, they design the cabinet to be very thin, and instead of killing the resonance, they embrace it. As a result, it gives a unique presentation. Also, the driver cone material, my friend told me, they use polypropylene. It's not very common, and it's supposed to give a nicer mid-range compared to other types of material. The mid-range, the mids, definitely stood out, and there's a certain elasticity to the sound with instruments. Not sure if that's a proper way to describe the sound, but whatever. Now, I remember the amplifier also caught my attention because it was really simple unit. Man, whoever designed it must be a minimalistic, like he likes minimalistic designs. I don't remember it sounding dry, like some of the other rooms. I have to admit, I was a bit so shocked to find that it is only 40 watts when I got home, and it uses SMPS power supply. Probably is a Class D, I'm not too sure. The unit is around $3,000. Now, having said that, I thought the pairing sounded pretty exciting. My only complaint was probably it was a bit on the bright side, and I noticed they already put it to the smoothest setting with the switch in front. Probably I would tame it down with speaker cables if it were me. Now, if you ever go to an audio show, yeah, definitely worth checking out the Graham LS8/1. I think the most innovative room at the audio show was these two rooms side by side that showcase what room treatment can do. So in both rooms, they had the Cafe LS60 playing the same song at the same time. So both rooms were similar in size. The difference is one room is heavily treated, so the idea is that you're supposed to move between both rooms and hear what room treatment can do. Well, the point is not to evaluate the Cafe LS60, but to evaluate the differences in what you hear. Now, I did the trip back and forth a few times, and most of you know my room is treated, so I do notice some similarities to my own place. Usually, room treatment will make the center image more focused. Room treatment can also expand the soundstage. It depends if you're using absorption or diffusion. Now, in this case, what really stood out for me is the treated room sounded warmer and cozier. I personally preferred the treated room. I think they achieved what they wanted to do flawlessly in such a short period of time. Any negatives? Not really. Talking about room treatment, okay, there were another two rooms that had exactly the same system. Well, almost. Both rooms had the B&W 801D4, the Classe Delta mono, and preamp. The biggest difference between both rooms is the size of the room. One room had dual subwoofer and a power management unit called the Antigone from Dr. Acoustics. One room had 20 feet high ceilings, tall enough to have a badminton game in there, with diffusion panels, while the other room has a lower ceiling with no room treatment. Now, the reason they had two subwoofers facing the speaker was to help balance the bass. Now, I remember meeting an audio buddy there, and he told me the room with the high ceiling was meh. I was there earlier, and it was not meh. So I brought him back to the room, had him sit on the sweet spot. I then requested the Peppery Man track and asked him what he thought. He replied with, "Okay, Thomas, I get what you mean by this room sounding pretty good. There's layering in the soundstage." That is why I always say, don't judge a room at an audio show, man. Play the wrong music, it would be boring, set at the wrong spot, and things will sound off. What I like about this room was the soundstage had depth. The bass was not overwhelming, as it had enough space for the bass to dissipate properly. Also, Classe is neutral, so the bass was not boomy. Now, we then went to the other room and played Peppery Man again. This time, despite having the same system, the center image is not as solid, and the depth of the soundstage is not there. However, the soundstage, on the other hand, is wider. And the bass was also not overwhelming with the help of those two subwoofers. The same system in two different rooms gave two different kinds of presentation. Next, the Sourcepoint 10. I think I'm one of the last person on earth to get to listen to these speakers. I spent a bit of time in this room because I got to hear Andrew Jones talk about the design and the challenges he faced when building these speakers. For example, did you know these speakers are crossed over at 3000 Hertz? Usually, you don't cross it at so high with a two-way. Now, Andrew is quite charming. I mean, I can listen to him talk all day. Now, what impressed me most about the Sourcepoint is if you look at the room, it is so big that you can have a volleyball game in there. yet the bass energy is still present strong enough to fill the room, or at least where I'm sitting, right? Imaging and detail were good, and it was coherent. Now, sadly, I was not able to play the peppery mounted system. The only thing I really wish I could try was with a tube amp they had there. Look, I understand for a crazy big room like this, using a tube amp is not the first choice, right? You want power to fill up a room like this. They told me I can go back after the show and they would put the tube amp for me, but unfortunately I forgot about it. The reason why I wanted to listen to a tube amp with it was because I felt the mid-range, the voice, had a hint of dryness. I wanted to know, is it because of the speaker or the amp that's the cause? Now, besides that slight hint of dryness, everything with these speakers, yeah, was solid. Hey Andrew, if you're watching, send me a pairful review. Next is this room song from Cen.Grand. Cen.Grand is a dealer here locally. My friends have bought from them many times, and they probably have the best price in my area. Don't ask me how. Just go there if you want the best price, and you can thank me later. So this year they brought in the Mcintosh XRT1.1k speakers. Man, it's like these naming conventions, man. R2D2 speaker, you know. I think each speaker has 70 drivers. Not bad for 60 grand US a pair. Those Mcintosh power amps probably have enough power for not only powering this room, but the next 5 rooms all together at the same time. If that was not enough, they brought in 2 rail subwoofers. Whoever set that system up must love bass. Fortunately, the DJ in that room recognized me and I got to play the songs I know in that room. I'll tell you what, I don't know is it because of the line array, the sweet spot in this room is pretty big. The soundstage is big. I guess they were going for that maximum sweet spot width, so it was more of a wall sound presentation. If you want that center image in this room, don't sit in the front row. You have to move around to look for it. I remember I had to move like to the back for it. Now I understand at the show some rooms go for that maximum impact presentation, and this room they went for strong bass. If you like bass, this room might be for you. It was fun to listen to. Some of my friends really liked it, while others find it a bit too much. I hope they pay the movers well, because did you know each speaker weighs 145 kilograms with the shipping crate? The amplifiers with the shipping crate weighs 83 kilograms each. So when they say Mcintosh amps weigh a ton, they literally mean it. If you evaluate the performance of the amplifier based on its weight, I think these Mcintosh won the gold medal. The next room is the total opposite. Now all those Mcintosh amps you saw just now, imagine all of them fit into one small unit instead. The amplifier is called Single Shot from a company called Java HIFI. I wonder if the designer was drinking tequila when he named this amp Single Shot. Okay, joking aside, you know, if you did not tell me this is a Class D, I might not be confident enough to bet you $100 it is or not Class D. Now, I always say Class D can sound amazing. Not all Class D sound like AM radio, and this amp is worth auditioning. Well, at 10 grand USD, it better be good. This brand's not known in North America. Even more the reason I'm interested in it. I love discovering hidden gems. I have this notion that hidden gems always deliver more than what mainstream can at the same price. Now, the single shot amplifier was driving a pair of Aperion V8T towers. So we were lucky to have the room to ourselves, and Olivier, who happened to recognize me, gave me carte blanche to choose the music I want. This was one of the few rooms that I felt had a balanced presentation. Now keep in mind, I was able to choose the volume, and I was able to set the volume and choose the song. The highs were not too bright, the bass was not overwhelming like in a nightclub, the mids were smooth, and after the first song they told me the speakers were $5 a pair. My audio buddies and me were like a bit surprised, because the performance as well as the finishing of the speaker would suggest a higher price. Heck man, some cables I saw that they cost more than these speakers. At an audio show, it's so easy to lose the sense of reality when it comes to price. The Aperion would be a speaker I would classify more on the musical side instead of the analytical side. These speakers definitely deserve to be discovered. I know many of you will love them. Now the next room left a strong impression on me. Kudos to them for giving out popcorn. They created a room that was quite inviting. The staff all had the biggest smile at the show, and that created a pretty friendly atmosphere. It was as if they were happy to be there. I swear guys, man, okay, I swear. I did not think about it when I was in the room. But once I start making this video, I noticed the name of the room is Audio HIFI. Fille is French, and that it means woman. Then I realized, oh my gosh, the staff was all women, or mostly women. No grumpy old man. Well, I'm not saying the other rooms were all grumpy old men running the show, but the energy definitely was different. So they had a Marantz turntable, Marantz integrated amp, driving a pair of B&W 702 S3. I think this was the first room I listened to that had a normal size room. Before that, I was in the big rooms. So the sense of scale and presentation was more familiar to me. The song choice was also very good. The demo, the bass, it was tight, the bass. I mean, it was, okay, let's just say it was very tight and fast. So impressive that Mr. Kanta, my audio buddy, started shopping for a pair of B&W 702 after leaving the show. Now, one thing to know about Marantz gear, I had them before, okay? And the tone control on them is fantastic. Sometimes when you use tone control to boost the bass, yeah, you get more bass, but you lose the tightness. With Marantz, from my experience, which is rare, you don't lose that tightness. My only regret is I did not get any popcorn. So the next room had panel speakers. Now in this room, they had the new Phonica Flag L speakers from France. You have the Cen.Grand DSDAC 1.0 Deluxe from China. This is an $8,000 DAC. And call me petty, but the name is hard to pronounce. There was the Innuous statement music server, the Innuous Phoenix net switch, finally the Phonica speaker, finally powering the Phonica speaker is the Pathos Inpol3 Mk2, 45 watt Class A power amp, integrated amp actually. The setup, it was over 50 grand US. Just the speaker alone is like 10 grand US. Now these speakers, interestingly, image pretty well. Lots of texture and was airy. Now the soundstage was well defined. This is a surprise because I'm used to like wall sound presentation when it comes to panel speakers. Precise imaging is not something I would say, you know, panel speakers are good at, but these were not bad. Just like the other room I visited, I played Make Us Stronger, thinking panel speakers are whatever when it comes to bass. Well, these panel speakers are not whatever when it comes to bass. It is actually pretty tight and of course really fast. Also, probably one of the most dynamic panel speakers I've ever listened to. Now wait for my review on these speakers because I have an interesting story to tell about them. Many years ago, I reviewed the Innuous Zenith streamer. Now what is new now with the Innuous is they have their own software. Finally, I think that was one of my main complaints when I reviewed the streamer. Now I actually right now have a Zenith streamer at my home, and I'll spend more time familiarizing myself with the software, and I'll let you know is it good or not. So let's end the video now. I was quite happy to see a few familiar faces at the audio show this year. For example, Itai showcased the Billy amp with the Buchardt S400 Mk2 at the show. I envy him actually because he has such an easy to transport setup. I actually got a chance to see the exhibitors packing up after the show. Here, let me show you a photo of the loading dock. And I tell you, man, it is no easy job. The amount of sweat and blood needed to make the show a reality is no joke. So that's why I always say, guys, man, cut them some slack. I was also happy to see many of you at the show. Apparently, someone told me I unintentionally ignored some of you. My apologies. Next time when you see me and if I ignore you, just yell, "Free food!" And for sure you'll catch my attention. Alright, see you at Expona.